Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica, our long-running series, the Unported playlist, where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we have another skiing game from Sega. And if you know anything about this channel, I absolutely love these gigantic amusement cabinets, and I have a very deep background in skiing, so stuff like this just goes together to make me absolutely love games like Sega Super G. This is a Model 2 arcade game. It's probably one that you'll never see in arcades again. If you do see it, definitely throw some quarters in, because it's unicorn status rare. Before you get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below as well. Now, funny enough, the last time I saw a cabinet for this, it was in Vail, Colorado, and it was for the US Free Skiing Open. The second place I saw one a week later was in Aspen for the X Games. For some reason, ski resorts put ski arcade cabinets in the lodges. Do not know why, because you could just go outside and ski, but I did not complain. I played them with a smile on my face. So this is a Model 2 game, and it looks absolutely spectacular still. And of course, they can continue to make games like this on the Model 3. Skiing racing games with gigantic cabinets where you stood on them and moved your hips left and right and leaned into the turn were a huge thing in arcades back in the day. And I would say the designers of the cabinet did a really good job of emulating what it would feel like to ski, because if you don't know this channel and you haven't been watching it very long at all, I've been skiing my entire life. I've been a coach at the X Games and the Olympics. It's not something I do anymore, but it was my life for the longest time. So these games put a secondary smile on my face because they remind me of what my life used to be like. But Sega was the king of these amusement cabinets. They made gigantic cabinets that you could do basically anything on. Snowboard, water ski, jet ski, downhill skiing, skateboarding, you name a sport, and there's probably a Sega cabinet for it, and that's why I love this game so much. Now, it's not the type of game that you're going to get the same sensation if you're playing this on the Model 2 emulator, but I guess you could rig up a giant pair of skis to some potentiometers so that you could actually do this in real life. And maybe if I get really bored one day, I'll take my skis out and try to set it up, but honestly, that's probably way too long of a video, and not many people are going to be interested in it. But I just love how this game looks. Model 2 and Model 3 arcade boards from Sega, I feel, have aged the best as far as any 90s 3D graphical technology is concerned, because these used chipsets from Lockheed Martin, and they were clearly ahead of the curve versus what was in home consoles at the time. But leave me a comment down below and tell me what your favorite 90s 3D hardware is. I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot of Dreamcast, but I want to know what your favorite hardware is, what pushed the polygons the best, and what you think aged the best, because it's all very subjective. But what the art designers at Sega knew was that colorful graphics look really good when you're playing a game, and those colorful graphics have aged extremely well. And the textures that are in this game are spectacular as well. You'll even see a Snow Sonic the Hedgehog right there. Now, when you do transpose this over to MAME, you can use like an Xbox One controller and set different analog sticks to do different things, such as turn and carve, because you can move the skis left and right laterally on the cabinet, but you could also lean in and turn them in a secondary fashion that would initiate more of a carve, which I will tell you is kind of like how skiing works in real life. But also leave me a comment down below. I'm curious how many people here ski or snowboard. I've been doing it my entire life. As long as I have memories, I remember being on skis, and as long as I'm alive, I'll try to find an excuse to get back on them. But the game is simple. There's 3 courses. You want to get to the bottom of the course before anybody else. You've got a timer. It's just a racing game, but it's got a great 90s vibe soundtrack as well, exactly what you expect it to be. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds, and I'll come back and talk more about the game. That's just like what every other arcade game sounded like back in the day, and that's because every other arcade game back in the day was basically seemingly made by Sega. I can't state how big their arcade lineage was in the 90s. They were probably the pinnacle of arcade game development with Sega and then everybody else. But you will see I ran out of time there. The game does have a second mode and you can race against the CPU, but normally these cabinets were side by side so you could race against a friend. And again, still not sure why I saw them at ski resorts. If you want to go race against a friend, get on your skis or snowboard, go outside and race against your friend. It is as simple as that, so I think it's always funny that I saw these at ski resorts. Like I said earlier, if you encounter a cabinet like this out in the wild, 100% play it. You probably won't see it again. The big issue with cabinets like this is they got beat on like they owed somebody money. People were not nice to these cabinets. People beat up every arcade cabinet they see, but these were prone to breaking and failure because imagine human bodies standing on the controls day in and day out, throwing them for all they were worth to the left and to the right, and think about how heavy certain people might be on those controls. These are the type of games that if you see it and it's functioning, it is that unicorn, and you owe it to yourself if you're into arcades whatsoever to play it. And honestly, if you're watching this video on my channel, I know you're into arcades. But leave me a comment down below and tell me if you know where a cabinet for this is, because I have not seen one in probably 15 years at this point in time, and if there's one within driving distance from Chicago, I may actually drive out there and check it out, because like I said, I love these cabinets, and there's stuff that we don't get that much of anymore. I was recently in Portland, Maine, and I went to round one with my nephew because he wanted to play arcade games, and while there were some gigantic experiences like a wall-mounted, huge screened Puzzle Bobble, I did not see anything you could stand on outside of music rhythm games. I wish somebody like Sega would make a cabinet like this again. I would love to see it. I did play the new Mission Impossible game. I would say it's a C-tier game at best. This is what I wish Sega was doing more of, and that's why I love 90s arcade games, especially the 3D stuff, because when you saw this in arcades, you probably still had a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis underneath your television. Maybe you saw it when the PlayStation 1 was out. But Model 2 just blew absolutely every piece of home hardware out of the water. This wasn't the next level. This was a complete different technology. It felt like a generational leap, and that's because it was one. When you saw these games running, you knew that the arcades were far superior to home console hardware. Sega Saturn could not do this game justice. You'd have to wait for something like the Dreamcast in 1998 or 99 if you're in North America to get even close. And why did this game not get ported? Because by the time there was home hardware available to do it justice, it didn't look good enough and they just moved on. But I love this little exit from the stage as well. It shows you how far you went, but it takes all of about 4 seconds and your skier just makes like 3 turns. It kind of has a miniature sort of tilt shift lens vibe to it, if you know what that is, and I just love it that they put this sort of effort into it, and even naming the course Wild King, not putting in any initials, of just kind of trying to get past the screen and back into the game. But like I said, these games are special. Unfortunately, while they do work perfectly fine under emulation, you lose the appeal of that gigantic set of skis that you could stand on, and there was a handle to the left and the right so you didn't fall over, and I can only imagine how many injuries these cabinets caused, especially if somebody had been drinking. They were probably falling completely backwards off it, and I would love to see that again. But that is Sega Super G. It's a Model 2 game that you can play at home if you feel like playing it today, and it's one of those games that I've got massive nostalgia for. But leave me a comment down below. Tell me if you remember this game in arcades, or what your favorite amusement cabinet is. Now, an amusement cabinet's different than a standard arcade cab. It's one of those things that you sit on and pedal like Prop Cycle, that you ski on like Sega Super G, or that you sit on like a boat or a motorcycle like Hang On. Sure that. We'll see you guys next time. Awesome game. Play it. Bye-bye.